All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Is this working? Do you hear me? Hello? Yeah? Okay. All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Let us begin. So it's exciting today to Mir Hashem pick back up a little bit with Tzidkas Hatzaddik. So I went ahead and I sent out the PDF just a few moments ago, and also there are hard copies here somewhere. I don't know where they are. Maish has them right on the stender, the tabletop stender over here, if anyone wants a hard copy. So we're going to do a very beautiful piece by the Rebbe today, focusing on something incredibly profound. So the Rebbe says in Simin Tzaddik Ches, he says as follows. We'll see if we go ahead and we'll see if we get through this in 1 day or 2 days. So the Rebbe writes as follows: Kol pasuk shel divrei Torah yesh bo kochos v'chiyus shel osa inyan shene'emar bo. Let's say an incredibly profound and beautiful idea. Page Tzaddik Ches, page Reish Lamed Vav. Reish Lamed Vav, page Seif Os Tzaddik Ches. So the Rebbe says as follows: Kol pasuk shel divrei Torah. Every pasuk in the Torah, yesh bo koach v'chiyus shel osa inyan shene'emar bo. Every pasuk in the Torah contains literally koach, strength, chiyus, life energy, regarding the subject matter it discusses. So we'll say what the Rebbe is saying is like this: psukim in the Torah contain an energy, and what's the energy of those psukim? The energy itself corresponds to the very matter that the pasuk itself is discussing. He says, for example, Teda shebetfilin shene'emar v'haya li'os. For example, by tefillin, right? In tefillin, so the parashos of tefillin discuss the idea that tefillin is an os. Tefillin is a sign, a covenantal sign between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. He says, "V'lo nisparish ezo parsha midivrei Torah tzarich lios." Now here's what's interesting. So follow this for just a moment. So the Torah says that the tefillin are supposed to be an os. But the Torah doesn't tell us which parsha in the Torah. The Torah doesn't tell us which parsha itself goes into tefillin. In other words, which parsha itself is the os, is the sign. V'alocha lichtov osam haparshios shene'emar bahem zeh. Mistama osa parsha shene'emar ba pasuk v'haya la'os yesh ba'osa inyan koach uskula shetia li'os. So the Rebbe says like this. Listen to how fascinating this is. Torah tells us that tefillin is a sign, that tefillin is an os, which means that I'm supposed to put a particular parsha inside of my tefillin, but the Torah doesn't tell me which parshios to put in my tefillin. Elamai, which psuki, which parshios, which sections do I put into the tefillin? Ultimately, again, the parsha itself that discusses the os of tefillin. Now, what the Rebbe is trying to say over here is the pasuk that talks about tefillin, those psukim themselves contain the energy of tefillin, contain the chiyus of tefillin. Using the Rebbe's lashon, contain the koach of tefillin. And therefore, again, it makes sense that halacha l'maisa, I'm going to include those psukim in the section of tefillin. So I will say, let me skip down to this a little bit. Go to the next paragraph. Just to illustrate what the Rebbe is saying over here. He says, V'chein pasuk Shema Yisrael. He says, for example, the pasuk of Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which highlights the oneness and the centrality of the Ribono Shel Olam. He says, Bo koach hakvius hashmiya balev. I will say, if a person really wants to be able to hear the message of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their heart, right? I will say, think about this just a moment. I want to be able, sometimes there's knowing something and hearing something represents the ability to reinforce that which you already know. Right? There are many things I know, but I want to reinforce that which I know. So how do I reinforce it? I listen to it again. So if a person wants to reinforce their knowledge of the centrality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their lives, how does one do that? Says the Rebbe, reading the pasuk of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. When I read that pasuk, he says, Bo koach Hakvius hashmiya balev. Embedded in the pasuk of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is the energy of reinforcing the oneness of Hashem. Ulekach sarich shiyomar gam tevas Shema Yisrael. So the Rebbe says something amazing. By reading the pasuk of Shema Yisrael, I awake within myself the energy of that pasuk. By reading the pasuk, ultimately I reinforce within myself a recognition of the oneness of Hashem. See, I will say, what Tzaddik is trying to highlight over here is something I think incredibly nuanced. Every pasuk has an energy. Every pasuk has a chiyus, a life force. And when you read that pasuk, and read it, start talking about scanning it, it's reading that pasuk, you unlock the energy of that pasuk. So I want to reinforce within myself the oneness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How do I do that? By ultimately reading the pasuk. And I both say, I'm going to illustrate this to you on the other side as well, which is going to make, I think, bring home the point even more. Watch this. V'zeh sod gamkein ma sheshamati ha-pasuk Seif Tzaddik Yedun Ratzon. Page Reish Lamed Zayin. Listen to this. L'kilafi hiarizal kasov skula. Both say this is incredible. Skula l'mishe yitzro mesiso le'eze avera. Both say, let's say my Yetzer Hara entices me to read a particular, right, entices me to commit a particular avera. Right? My Yetzer Hara entices me to commit a particular avera. So Rabbi say, so what should I do? How do I combat that? Right? How do I combat that desire? Listen to this. L'daber befiv kama pamim pasuk halav shal ha'avera. Rabbi say, wow, if I'm struggling with a particular avera, so what should I do? Read the prohibition, read the lav a couple of times. Right? So I will say, so for example, just a simple example. Let's say I'm struggling with theft. I don't know, whatever, I'll call it theft. So what should I do to combat that Yetzer Hara of theft? I should read the pasuk lo sigzol multiple times. Read the pasuk of the prohibition of theft multiple times. I'm struggling with lashon hara. Ultimately, again, read the pasuk lo selech rachel ba'amecha multiple times. I'm struggling with looking at inappropriate things. Go ahead. Lo sasuru acharei einei levavchem acharei einechem asher atem zonim achareichem. Read the psukim. Says the Arizal, when you read the pasuk that details the lav, that details the prohibition, what does that do? It gives me the strength to combat that desire. But say, isn't this absolutely incredible? He says, halav shalaver ayidei zeh yishtane haratzon. Through reading the pasuk itself, which details the prohibition, my ratzon, my very will, is able to change. V'chein le'inyan mitzvah v'davar tov. And the same is true, by the way, for a mitzvah and for something good. The same way that ultimately reading the pasuk regarding a particular lav gives me the strength to combat that desire, reading the pasuk of an aseh, of a positive mitzvah, gives me the strength to go ahead and perform that mitzvah as well. Reb Tzaddik highlighting to us this incredible and profound yesod, that the psukim of the Torah do not simply detail information, but rather the psukim of the Torah themselves have an incredible, vibrant, and dynamic energy. So when you read the pasuk, ultimately again, you're able to unlock that particular energy. If I'm struggling with an avera, read the pasuk of the lav. And if you read it, you unlock the energy to combat that Yetzer Hara. I'm struggling with I want a reinforced desire to do good. Read the pasuk of the aseh, of the positive commandment, and read it a couple of times, and you'll unlock the energy ultimately to do the positive mitzvah, to do the aseh. The idea being that the psukim themselves contain an energy. Reading of the psukim unlock that energy. And of course, by the way, even on an esoteric level, reading the pasuk ultimately reinforces for myself what's good, what's bad. And says the Rebbe, va'al yidei zeh yishtane haratzon. Through the reading of the psukim, unlocking its energy and reinforcing its message, I'm able to alter my very will. All right, so we'll stop over here for today. Just an incredible little piece by the Hatzaddik. Short in words, but profound and massive in message. Shkoyach.